Everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Apprenticeship Workforce Development Program. My name is Madhvi Kumar. I'm the project manager at AELP, and I'll be chairing today's webinar. I'd now like to introduce today's facilitators. We have with us Cheryl Swales, Head of Apprenticeship Workforce Development, AELP, and Matthew Hinchley, Projects Manager, AOC. Over to you, Cheryl.
Thanks very much, Madhvi, and welcome everybody to today's webinar. We're delighted to have so many of you joining us this morning to hear all about the apprenticeship workforce development and some opportunities for projects. As Madhvi said, I'm Cheryl Swales. I'm Head of Apprenticeship Development Workforce at AELP, and we've also got Matthew Hinchley, who is Project Manager at AOC. Both myself and Matt are responsible for overseeing both organisation roles as partners in Phase 2 of the Department for Education Apprenticeship Workforce Development Programme, and we'll talk a little bit more about that soon. So the webinar is going to explore opportunities to receive project funding to address priority areas that will improve the quality of apprenticeship delivery identified by individual and collaborative partnerships. We'll explain the criteria, the process, the timescales for providers interested in applying for the grants to develop and undertake small-scale practitioner improvement projects and separately collaborative projects, which will include a minimum of 3 partners. We'll explain the timescales for project completion and reporting and answer any questions that you have. As mentioned during the housekeeping, you will receive a copy of the recording and slides for this webinar, so please do feel free to share those within your own organisations and networks. Okay, so what are we going to look at in the next half an hour to 45 minutes? So we'll give a little bit of an overview about the Apprenticeship Workforce Development Programme. We'll talk about some of the links to previous projects and how you can use those, use the resources from those projects to perhaps identify something that you would like to develop through a project. We'll talk about the opportunities and funding, and then Matt, my colleague from AOC, will talk about the application process and assessment, and then we've left some room at the end there for some questions. As Madhvi said, if we don't get round to answering all of the questions, we will follow them up with a Q&A document after the webinar. Okay, so just to give a brief overview of the Apprenticeship Workforce Development Programme. The programme has been developed by, it was funded by the Department for Education, and it's been delivered by the Education Training Foundation in partnership with ourselves, AELP, Association of Colleges, Strategic Development Network, which is SDN, and University Vocational Awards Council, UVAC. It's also supported by SQW as an independent evaluation partner. The first phase of AWD launched in 2021 to support staff at all levels and roles delivering apprenticeships across FE and HE settings. So in terms of the key activity that DFE has commissioned, it's all about driving quality improvement across apprenticeships, and it's a key part of the DFE's quality strategy. The programme will provide industry-relevant continuous professional development to apprenticeship providers, employers and their workforces, and will enable the delivery of high-quality teaching and training that will equip apprentices with the knowledge, skills and behaviours for industry-specific roles. So just to break that down a little bit, so the phase 2 of the project started in July 2022 and is running for 3 years, possibly 5 years. And within this first year, we are looking at kind of 3 objectives. So we've done some training needs analysis. We had a survey that was launched in November and ran through to December last year to get some feedback from the sector on what that CPD needs to look like. And we've followed that up with a range of focus groups. So hopefully some of you on the webinar this morning have been involved in some of those focus groups to give us that organisational feedback on that, the CPD that we're going to be looking to develop as the programme moves forward. In terms of CPD delivery, which is objective B, we are soon to be launching some early CPD, and there'll be more information on that to follow. That's delivery that will happen between now and June, sort of July. But then the CPD delivery that we're developing as part of the training needs analysis will move beyond that. And then objective C is all around the wider collaborative learning. So this is where the project fits into the programme. So we've got projects, we've got networking, we've got community of practice, and that's all to build on the collaboration and knowledge sharing across providers. So I mentioned in the intro there that you know the projects can have links to previous effective projects through the outstanding teaching and learning and assessment. The OTLA programmes drew together activity to support colleagues and their partners to develop and improve their practice. It was all driven by the values and expectations set out in the Education and Training Foundation's professional standards, and there's a link to those on the slide there, for teachers and trainers, managers and leaders. And although the OTLA programme is no longer running, you can access case studies and resources developed by practitioners through past projects and further information and resources, which may help you when you're looking at what, you know, your project, what do you want to deliver as part of this if you were successful in your application. There's been over 200 OTLA collaborative projects since 2015, and the OTLA website link there will take you to a whole range of resources on the webpage, links for further information and evaluation reports from those previous projects. So some tools there to really help you think and shape your own project as we move into this phase. So in terms of the opportunities that are available through this funding, we have two different project types. So practitioner improvement projects, there's 10 of those available, and the grant is up to £5,000 for each project. And then we have the collaborative projects, which again, there's 10 available, and the grant available is up to £20,000. Deadline for proposals for both of these projects close at 5 p.m. on the 17th of March. In terms of I'm going to go into those in a little bit more detail so that you can understand the difference between the types of projects. But in terms of those practitioner improvement projects, those are targeting individual providers, allowing the exploration of critical challenges in their own context. And then the collaboration projects are projects between providers to solve key challenges. So those are the differences between the two opportunities that are currently available. Okay. So just looking at the practitioner improvement projects, these are small-scale action research projects to make improvements to apprenticeship delivery through continuous professional development and CPD activities. So what do we mean by that action research? It's short-term pieces of development work which aim to improve apprenticeship delivery by developing approaches, trying them out on the ground, reflecting on the outcomes, refining them, and sharing those findings. And at the heart of the action research approach is the cycle of action, reflection, action, which is shown quite nicely in this little diagram here. So you start with identifying the issue, exploring solutions, testing the solution, what works and doesn't work, applying learning to improve practice, sharing learning with colleagues, and that's kind of the cycle of the practitioner improvement projects. These research proposals can contribute to part of your organisation, a curriculum or occupational area, or the organisation as a whole. For example, a project could aim to maximise learning in on and off the job training, employer partnership working, for example, and we've shared some suggested themes. Learning will be possible by identifying and piloting successful strategies for improvement, or a project that you could develop and trial curriculum resources to deal with a particularly tough topic. Your project will be to support you to improve your apprenticeship delivery. It will be a small focused piece of work linked to improving the quality of apprenticeship delivery, and applicants may choose to apply individually or work with additional colleagues from the outset and submit joint applications. So as I said there, just kind of some examples around what successful projects are likely to do is to be focused around promoting improvements in apprenticeship delivery, to have clear objectives, milestones and measurable outcomes, to have performance indicators to measure impact, to align and link into organisational improvement, CPD plans, to have support and commitment from senior managers, to have tangible outputs that can be used to share effective practice, and be collaborative in nature, so learning is shared and impact is maximised. So proposals for practitioner improvement projects must have a project lead and be signed off by a senior manager. So all of this information is contained within the guidance that you would receive with the application form, and we'll go into that a little bit more detail when Matt comes on just to talk about the application process. In terms of collaborative projects, objectives of these projects are to identify, explore and disseminate effective approaches for enabling high quality apprenticeship delivery, effective approaches for the development of staff who deliver apprenticeships, and effective practice in the delivery of apprenticeships. So just some example areas that could be explored through a collaborative project, and they are listed in the guidance document, but could fall into a number of key themes. So we've listed some of those there so that you can get some ideas on your own projects around quality and programme development, around programme design, initial assessment and onboarding, governance and leadership, progress reviews, gateway and endpoint assessment, compliance, cross-cutting themes, off-the-job teaching, training and learning, working with employers, and a whole range of other things. A collaborative project will give you the chance to explore approaches for improving the quality of your apprenticeship delivery with a safe space and funding grant to subsidise the project work with colleagues to explore new and emerging practice. In terms of building your project consortium, collaborative projects must have a project lead, so that would be an organisation which delivers apprenticeship training and/or endpoint assessment and are approved on either the Register of Apprenticeship Training Providers and/or the Register of Endpoint Assessment Organisations. Each project must include at least 3 organisations that are involved with the delivery of apprenticeship, and eligible practitioners organisations may be involved in more than one application if the material is different. So as I said on previously, and that link that we had to the OTLA website, have a look back at previous projects that have been developed to see what's already being done in this space and to generate new and interesting ideas for your own project. In terms of project support, all projects will be assigned a mentor to provide advice and guidance to the project lead with understanding research and project processes, defining project-specific evaluation indicators, project setup, attending the initial meeting of the project team to provide briefing and support with methodology requirements and professional standards, provide input on the apprenticeship reforms, monitoring project progress and project output production. But mentors will not be available for project admin or delivery. That's really down to the provider to actually deliver on the projects that you were bidding for. So there will be some support available, through allocation of a dedicated mentor to guide you through the process. If you need any further advice and information on anything that you've heard about today, I am going to be running a couple of 1-hour drop-in sessions. So I'll be online on Thursday the 9th of March between 3 and 4 o'clock, or Friday the 10th of March between 11 and 12. If you just want to have a pop on and have a chat about any ideas that you're formulating, any questions that you've got, or you can drop me an email, and I've put my email address there on the slides. Okay, so I'm now going to hand over to Matt, who's going to talk a little bit about the application and assessment.
Thank you, Cheryl. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. So the application forms and guidance for the Apprenticeship Workforce Development Collaborative Programmes will all be housed on the Association of Colleges website, who are hosting these on behalf of the consortium. They can be accessed via the links in the slides that you'll receive afterwards, or via the QR code that's on the screen. Applications should be submitted by 5 p.m. on Friday the 17th of March, following which they'll all be assessed by an assessment panel made up of independent representatives from each of the consortia partners. Applications should be submitted to the email address on the screen, awd@aoc.co.uk, and any applications submitted after 5 p.m. deadline will not be considered. Applications will be assessed the week commencing the 20th of March, with the aim to inform successful applicants by the end of the week so that they can confirm their attendance at the project lead's development day on the 29th of March. Interested parties are invited to submit any questions they may have by the 10th of March. All questions that are submitted will be responded to directly, but also published on a frequently asked documents document that will sit alongside the application paperwork on the AOC website. Thank you very much for attending today. The floor is now open to any questions that we may have.
Sure. Thank you, Matt. We do have a few questions here. I'll just go on with this. So we have a few questions on collaborative and practitioner improvement projects. So can the collaboration project be completed within a college group and working with different colleges within the group across the country?
Yeah, so the only stipulation with the collaborative projects is that there's three providers involved in that. So whether that's 3 colleges, 3 independent training providers, 3 universities, that's absolutely fine, as long as it's, you know, it is a collaborative project between different providers, and one of those providers would need to act as the lead.
Great. Okay. And you did talk about building the project. So which organizations are eligible to participate, and do the curriculum project group need a particular makeup of partners?
So the projects are open for any provider types. So colleges, independent training providers, universities, employee providers. The only type of organisation that's not eligible to apply for them is employers that are not a provider. So they are only for providers.
Right. Okay. So a local training provider network that does not deliver apprenticeships, are they eligible to participate?
I think it would depend on the type of project that they wanted to develop, and that would be assessed by the assessment panel, because you know, the aim of these projects is to improve the quality of apprenticeship delivery. So if they're not delivering apprenticeships, then it might be difficult for them to do that.
Correct, yeah. And the delivery period for the projects, do they need to be completed this academic year?
Yeah, so the projects will run for 6 months, so from March to October, but they've got to be delivered in within that 6 months, and then there'll be a dissemination event at the end of the period. Right,
okay. And 10 successful applications for each strand is quite a small number. So is it likely that you would increase that number?
For this round, no. But that's not to say that there won't be other opportunities that come out through the Apprenticeship Workforce Development Programme at a later date. But for this round, there is only 10 of each available. And that's because that's been approved, that funding's been approved by DFE.
Thank you. And is the funding for collaborative projects split across the involved providers?
Yes, so the total is 20,000, so that would be for the project, not per provider.
Yeah, okay. And does the practitioner project, have to be connected to a standard already being delivered, or could it be for a planned one to help in curriculum design?
It could be. I think, from my understanding, it doesn't have to be based on a particular standard. It's you know, as long as that project is going to do something to aim to improve apprenticeship delivery. So it doesn't. Projects don't have to be aligned to particular standards. It's all about the improving the quality of apprenticeship delivery.
Yeah, okay. And just to re-clarify on the local training provider networks, would a bid that included 2 apprenticeship partners and 1 local training provider network be considered?
I can't see. I mean, it was Matt.
Do you want me to jump in, Sharon? Yeah, so essentially the eligible partners for a project must be on either the register of approved training providers or on the register of approved endpoint assessment organisations.
Right. Okay. We have a few questions around the duration of the project delivery. Okay, and how are the project amounts paid?
So the grants will be split in 2. So the first payment, the first 50% will be paid on submission of the project and budget plan, and then the second half of the payment will be paid at the end following the dissemination event.
Great. We have a question on sharing the link to previous projects in the chat. We will share the slides with you that will have all the links on there.
Yeah, that's it. So if you look at the OTLA site, there's some really good resources in the evaluation reports and things like that that you can read to see what's happened previously, you know, and how they were delivered and how they ran, just to get some good ideas for your own project.
Right. Okay. And if projects run between the end of March to October, this is the busiest time frame for colleges, especially for the September starts. So this leaves little time to implement new projects. It's raised as a concern.
Mm-hmm. Matt, I know that's kind of been particularly raised by your college.
Yeah, we've noted the concerns with these timelines, and we'll feed them back to the wider project consortium. But the timelines that we are discussing have been approved by DFE, but we will take every comment into consideration.
We have a few more questions. You're all right to go on with that now?
Oh yeah, we've got plenty of time.
Okay, great. And do you need to submit any budget plan with the application for funding?
Yes, you do. Everything that is required to be submitted as part of the application is within the guidance documents and the application form itself, but there is a requirement to submit an indicative budget plan with your application.
Right. And is the funding for individual projects the 5,000 per project, or is this two split across the 10 projects? I believe that's individual.
It is, yeah. Just
5,000 per project, yeah.
Okay. Okay, we have a question around how many organizations would be awarded the individual project?
10. There's 10 grants available, yeah.
Okay. And are the findings of the training needs analysis in the public domain?
Not yet, no. So the survey ran from November to December, and then across all of the partners, we've delivered focus groups between January and February. So we're just pulling all that information together now, which will be submitted back to ETF, who will submit the final report to DFE in March. But we can't say yet whether that'll be published or not. But we'll certainly be sharing some of the findings from that.
Perfect, thank you. The Project Leads Development Day, is that online or in person?
The current thought process is that will be a physical in-person day.
Okay. And within the OTLA project networks, we're able to be involved but not lead. Could we gain clarification on this?
Sorry, what was the question?
The OTLA project networks, so the provider says they'll be involved but not be able to lead it. So would that be all right?
Again, any organisation that is on either of the two registers is eligible to be involved in a project. The project consortium needs to have an identified lead organisation who will submit the overall application, and the wider two partners all need to be on the register. So if they fall under that criteria, then yes, they can be involved.
Okay, great. And would an apprenticeship marketing manager at a university be able to apply for this?
I can't see why not, as long as there was senior manager sign off. Would that be for the individual one? I presume that they mean for the individual one, but yeah, I can't see why not, as long as, like I said, it does require senior manager sign off.
Right. Okay. And can one of the providers be an endpoint assessment organization or qualification award bodies?
They've got to be on the register of apprenticeship, sorry, the endpoint assessment register. So if that organisation is on the register of endpoint assessment organisations, then yes, they can be part of it.
Okay. Right. So we have a few questions coming in. So my questions panel is just 1 moment. Okay. Also, can one of the, okay, we've just gone through this again. Could a collaborative be led by an apprenticeship provider, NFE college, and the other two partners be employers who are apprentices with the provider?
Sorry, go on, Matt.
I believe so, but I will want to double check without then contradicting myself from earlier on. But essentially, the lead applicants need to be either providers and on the register of training provider, or the register of endpoint assessment organisations.
Great. And for the collaborative projects, do you have a list of other interested providers that they could reach out to for a collaborative project?
Well, we've only just launched the projects last week, so we don't have a list. There's not sort of a registration of interest list or anything like that. It would just be a case of reaching out to networks and other providers. But if you want, if anybody wants to contact myself or Matt directly in terms of other ITPs or other colleges, or we can put you in touch with you back around other universities or anything like that, it's probably best if you email us if you want suggestions of people to approach.
Okay, that's great. Okay, and for an individual submission, could this be used to pay for an individual to attend masterclasses and become an in-house expert to improve the quality of apprentices?
I would certainly need to look into that. I don't know whether Matt has got a view on that.
Yeah, I would echo Cheryl's comments that would warrant a further investigation and a response back.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get back to that. We'll get back on that point.
Okay, great. And a collaborative bid, if a collaborative bid was submitted by a ROAP provider and involved other ROAP providers, could the partnership also include a provider network? That is, could they receive some of the project funding if they are going to help the collaboration to manage and deliver the project?
I think that comes back to the previous point that was raised, that Matt was going to take away and look into around whether it's just the lead that needs to be on the register or whether it needs to be all providers.
Great. If you have any other questions, please put them in the questions panel. I think we've addressed all of the questions here for now.
Okay, great. Well, there was obviously a lot of interest and a lot of questions there, so thank you for that.
Okay, we do have a few just coming now, Cheryl. Are you all right? Yeah. Great. We will be sharing the slides with you after the session and a copy of the recording as well. Also, just for clarification again, is it only the lead that needs to be on the ROAP or the ROEPO? Just trying to understand whether an organization that is not on one of these registers can still be a part of the collaborative project, but not as a lead.
That's the point that we were going to take back, and we will we'll confirm that. I think my understanding is that each of the organisations needs to be on the register, but like I say, we will double check that for the provider network and for the college that's asked the question about the employers as well. We will double check and we will clarify that in the Q&A document.
Great, okay. And can an ITP easily access the AOC website resources, or do we need a login?
No, it's openly accessible to everybody. It's not under a login or a paywall or anything like that.
Okay. Also about the submission, people are checking if the timeline could be extended a bit. Just seems to be a bit rushed.
Fortunately not. The timeline has been signed off by DFE, and we would not be able to look to extend it.
Okay. And historically, are there more submissions for the practitioner project or collaborative project? And how many submissions do you anticipate roughly for each project round based on previous rounds?
That is a really good question, which I would love to be able to answer, but this is the first round of these sorts of projects under the AWD contract. So we've got no prior experience of the volume, but judging from the volume of attendees and interest in the programme, I suspect that this will be heavily oversubscribed.
Right. Okay. And why do supporting members of a consortium need to be on either of the registers?
Again, going back to the question earlier, we're going to seek complete clarification on this point and publish it in the FAQs to get a really solid, clear response to that question.
right? Okay, yeah, there's no more questions on the list for now.
Okay, great. Well, hopefully that's giving you some good information about the different types of opportunities that are available and the timelines. Like I said, we are happy for you to contact us individually if you've got any questions beyond today. And like I said, there are those drop-in sessions that when you get a copy of the slides, you will receive a link to those, and they're just open Teams calls. So please, I'll be online for an hour, so feel free to pop on and have a chat and answer any further questions that you've got. But yeah, that's all the content really. So anything else from you, Matt?
No, just thank you very much everyone for your interest. And as we've said, everything will be shared and made available outside the webinar for you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Matt. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining us. I'll now hand it back over to Magby.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. If you have any other questions about the project opportunities discussed today or the Apprenticeship Workforce Development Program in itself, please do contact Cheryl or Matt directly, and they will be happy to help you further. Once you leave today's webinar, a survey will appear on your screen. We'd be grateful if you could spare a minute to complete that, please. On behalf of Cheryl, Matt, myself, and the webinar team, thank you for joining us today. Have a lovely day.